Alrighty, guys. Thank you for tuning in. This is Aquafina. We got Smog the Wise. We got That Disciple, and we got Spicy Fireball. And I posited a question, to everyone, and it was, why do you think that the '90s were good when clearly we're viewing this through nostalgia goggles?
Oh,
It,
those
I,
rose
I,
tints.
I think it's pretty clear to me that we're viewing this through nostalgia goggles.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Right.
I tried to go back and watch Beast Wars not even too long ago, and the 90s lingo alone was just atrocious. I think I heard radical like 9 times in less than a minute.
It's radical, and I don't even think that's really '90s slang. That's like late '80s slang that just kind of snuck its way into the '90s like TV shows. But the reason why I picked out the '90s, why I chose the '90s and not the '80s or the 2000s, is because everybody makes like people of our generation specifically make a big fucking deal about the '90s. They make a big deal about the '90s. Like, yeah, it's cool, but take off the nostalgia glasses for a moment, and you'll realize that the '90s sucked.
You
They
used to pay for
sucked.
internet by the fucking hour.
You get you get your 100 hours of AOL in the fucking mail every month. It's the same shit, and they're like, you can use the internet for 100 whole hours, guys. 100 hours. Thanks, AOL. Like what?
Cell
also-
phones weren't really a thing.
56K. You're gonna
Oh,
tell me
God.
that you're gonna tell me that was good. That was fun. That was fun in the that was the fun part of the '90s.
The sound
was-
of death.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of stuff that I did like about the '90s. Don't get me wrong, but also those things are also viewed, I think, in the nostalgia goggles kind of way. Like Pokemon, the game itself was fun. Pokemon, the anime that is fucking critically acclaimed by every '90s kid to be some of the best shows on television. Get out of my face.
What are you talking about? The day Ash got turned into stone and all the Pokemon cried and somehow brought him
Oh
back
my
to life. That made perfect sense, and I cried. And I had my little Mew card for the movie and everything.
The Mew card that you couldn't use in battles because it didn't.
Yeah. I got my Mew card. I don't know what you're talking about.
I
I
never
saw
got
shit in
him.
theaters.
That's why the '90s sucked. I never got a Mew card.
That's what
We figured it out. We figured it out on the
Damn.
podcast today. I think if we take an objective look back, because there's a lot of people from our time that always, they're like, oh dude, but did you see the '90s? The '90s were the greatest, blah blah blah. Dude, at the turn of the century, once the technology has upgraded so fast since the turn of the century that I propose that if we went back with any technology that we have right now back to the early '90s, we would be motherfucking wizards. Everybody would be fucking in awe. They would be like, oh my god, this guy's for real. I think he's worshiping he might be a Satan worshiper. This guy has magic for real.
How can he pull up any song he ever wanted on a single website?
There were
You-
advances in the '90s, though, man. You went from Super Mario World that dropped in 1990 to Super Mario 64.
Okay, well, I mean, I'd rather be using uTorrent than BearShare. So,
Oh,
Yo,
true.
do you remember Kazaa? Does
No.
anybody remember Kazaa is another torrent like peer-to-peer sharing service that was really popular, like I think like '96. It was around the time where Who Let the Dogs Out
oh god,
and the Slim Shady LP were
Snow Dog movie.
it was around that time. I remember here's a story from the '90s just to show how disconnected really people were with technology in the '90s, where torrenting is probably more broadly well known by the general populace. I remember FBI don't search my shit, okay? I was a stupid kid. I swear I don't torrent anymore. I downloaded, I think, what was it? I think it was The Way I Am, or it was The Real Slim Shady. One of those. And in Kazaa, there was a message you could message people, like it had its own little messaging center. And so you could message people back whenever you were finished down, because you were literally downloading the things off of people's computers. It was like a network sharing feature. So where I think I downloaded the Real Slim Shady off someone, and I messaged them. I was like, "Wow, man, thanks, good song." And the reason I remember this is so clear is because his response to that was, "What? Give it back.
What?
Give it back. Give me back the song."
Oh
like
my God.
I stole that shit from under him. And so just to show that, like, that disconnect, man. The internet was a young place.
Oh, think
And
about this.
I think the young internet sucked.
ASL, age, sex, location.
I was just having this
That
conversation.
never happen. That would never happen.
First of all, you would get the weirdest looks. You are automatic stranger danger. If somebody comes up to you and says ASL, it means age, sign, location, or age, sex, location.
Yeah, age, sex, location.
Age, sex, location. Some people took it as sign. I'm pretty sure. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Well, I'm a Pisces.
Yeah, I'm a Virgo, guys. But
There
it's
you
age, sign, location. These people were literally in chat rooms. I guess that's more courteous than, show me your tits, which a lot of people will do. Most of us here in the podcast are Twitch streamers. We've seen how brutal it can be on the internet. The internet has gotten more brutal with time, I'll say that. But the early internet sucked.
They might have had a little more courtesy.
Do you think so?
I mean, I remember being a kid and in chat rooms on AOL.
They're gonna
It wasn't
molest
too
you with
crazy.
courtesy. Like,
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, ASL, where are you? I really want to know. What's your age? Oh,
you're 10 and
I never got
down the
hit back.
street, coming there right now.
like that's how these assholes ended up on, like, How to Catch a Predator.
That's why that
Oh.
show exists. That's literally why that show
Was that the
exists.
90s?
That was the 90s.
Yeah, that was the 90s.
Another
Chat
reason
room.
why the 90s sucked.
People were getting raped.
People were getting no. The internet just enabled a bunch of people. Now I think we're better about the internet. I think most people are more cautious about how they, even in the gaming community, people are a little bit more cautious about how they use the internet, because they know they could be being watched by the FBI right now. Back then, people were just straight up like, "Yo, if you tell me where you're at, I'll go suck your dick, bro." Like,
Maybe that's what the
you know-
dark web is today. Maybe it's the left behind AOL.
No, the dark web.
No, I'm joking.
The dark
That's a real
web has
place.
gotten even darker now, man. I mean, because now you can just buy drugs online legally. Like,
Illegal.
but and that's the everything on the dark web. We'll talk about that in a moment. But it's I think what people are blinded by, most of the people that we hang around, they're blinded by the fact that we were kids
oh yeah,
in the 90s. We were kids in the 90s, and we didn't really know how much things suck. Like, I'm not a downer. You know what I mean? I like to see the good in things. I like to have a lot of fun. But I feel like as an adult, I can honestly tell you that most adults don't have their shit together. They're just pretending to have their shit together for either their kids or for themselves, for their own mental sanity.
True.
And my mom probably didn't let me know how fucked up things were. But by the time the mid-90s rolled around, I was old enough to kind of see. Now then I thought it was good. Now I look back, I'm like, wow. They're just trying to sell me shit. Pokemon or Pocket Monsters, whatever you guys want to call it. Pokemon was a defining moment in the 90s for me.
I mean, yeah. Honestly, those kind of things don't get pushed anymore. I mean, think about how much money our parents spent on useless fucking card games.
Oh my God.
Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, DBZ even had a shot at it.
Oh
I was
yeah,
bribed.
that's right, the Dragon Ball card game.
Yeah, like everybody had. Yu Yu Hakusho has a card game.
I was bribed with the card game to play football, man. My mom gave me Pokemon cards after practice just to say, hey, if you go to practice, I'll get you a pack of Pokemon cards. You know?
Yo, but those Pokemon cards were legit, man. People were stealing those shit. Like, kids were stealing each other's Pokemon cards out there, man.
I was one of those kids.
Oh, yeah.
Why would you admit that? Why would you admit that, Disciple?
Disciple was a bully.
He's a
I
bully.
admit because I already told him, like, I wasn't even a bully about it. My friend lost his Pokemon cards on the playground, and the kid found them and gave them back and threw in a couple extras. And he's like, hey, kid threw a Gyarados up in my deck, man. I was like, let me see. And then he's like, they're in my desk. Go check it out. I swiped that bitch.
He's like, yo, I took that Gyarados. Fuck that guy. Fuck him
Like,
and
I
his
didn't see no
Charizard.
Gyarados in there, man.
You thought you got a free Gyarados, bitch.
Yeah, you thought.
Right?
Fuck your Charizard. Water type,
Run that.
bitch.
That's my finder's fee.
Hell yeah.
So I think you know, but you know, I don't want to just tear down the 90s. You know, we talked about this.
Right.
Let's name some of the good things about the 90s. Some of the things that I might still even be looking through. Yeah, through the goggles. But cartoons is one of them. The cartoons in the 90s were amazing.
Though I have to say, and this is against the 90s, I would have to say, and this is going to be a little controversial, Teen Titans, the first one, was a better written cartoon/show than anything that came out in the 90s.
Teen Titans.
That hurts
We've
me.
had, it's true though, but think about it. The development and the storyline, that we didn't really have story-based cartoons back then. It was bad guy of the week. You know what I mean? It was who's the Street Sharks going after? Who's the Ninja Turtles are gonna fight Shredder. You know, like it's.
I see what you're saying. There are some gems. There are some gems from the 90s that actually had some.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
But that's not animated. But the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was amazing. That's a good part of the 90s. That's for sure.
One of the best parts.
One of the best parts in that and Martin.
Yes,
Martin was so fucking good. But
too bad to find out he was so molesty.
Did what?
Oh yeah, like all of his female co-hosts and Martin like really didn't like him. Apparently he was push up on him and stuff.
The 90s was a different time. The 90s was a different time.
A lot more cocaine.
So here's the thing. Okay. So that's one. You got the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Batman the animated series.
Oh, fucking gold.
Gold, but it falls under. I think it falls under the same. It wasn't until later that they really started getting like real like continual storylines for Batman the animated series. It was like when Batman and Robin came out. Like,
you know who did though?
Who?
Spider-Man. Spider-Man had a very continual storyline. That's where the Spider Queen storyline came in, even before the comics. Spider-Man, his old 90s show was a very much of a serial. It was, they finished up seasons almost.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right about that. But Batman falls under that bad guy of the week thing that you were talking about. I thought Batman was amazing though. Batman the animated series, it's some of the best animation I ever seen coming out the 90s. Between that and like the Looney Tunes, so there's a lot of things that go very well with the 90s. You know, the Looney Tunes, all the Looney Tunes, even they were still in the 90s. They were still running Looney Tune episodes, or just like
I miss the classics, man.
They like they were still running shows from like the 50s and the 90s. Like
I'd like to sing you about the stars in.
Yeah, that shit was good. That shit was good. So that's a good part. What's another good part?
Keenan and Kel, all that. Well, shit. If y'all are sticking with animated, you can say Ren and Stimpy.
No,
Doug,
oh my God, yes. These
Animaniacs.
But you know what I hear whenever we're saying these things? I hear typical 90s
Nostalgia.
Kids answers.
I mean, I liked Metabots.
Metabots was amazing. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah,
Even though it was absolutely terrible. It was
fucking
amazing.
terrible.
It was fucking awful.
More power. Metabots.
For those of you who don't know what Metabots is a show about these kids
robots.
these kids that get robots, these little like miniaturized robots that they get to battle. Anyway, it's basically Pokemon with Pokemon with fucking robots.
More sentient AI enslavement.
Yeah. So I think if we're talking about just TV shows in general, of course we got a slew of shows. We got a lot of, I feel like maybe not innovation in the 90s, but we got a lot of unique showings like
Okay.
all that Legends of the Hidden Temple. We
Oh
got
fuck!
oh,
Legend of the
we
Hidden
got
Temple.
like there's a lot. I could go on and on. We got Gargoyles. We got
Oh,
Hey Arnold,
Hey Arnold. Like there was a lot. Angry Beavers.
Dexter's
Cousin
Laboratory.
Skeeter.
Yeah, Dexter's Lab. I think Cousin Skeeter was on the was at the turn. That was like 2000.
Yeah.
I actually like that show though. I mean,
I don't know how they got a doll.
And you
Like out of like
remember
how does
them
that even happen
implementing
anyway?
3D?
Which one?
3D. They tried to make some shows 3D back then.
Oh yeah, like a reboot.
Megas
No, like-
XLR.
Put on 3D glasses while you watch TV.
Oh no.
Those things like never worked. You don't remember?
Oh, I
that?
do. I do remember that actually.
Like for the Rugrats, you'd like put on your 3D glasses and watch the
it was
Rugrats.
the red and
I've
blue.
never fucking done that. What the hell?
Yeah,
yeah,
like
oh,
what
God.
what
Rich
what?
kids over here.
Yeah, right. Well, like what are you talking about right now?
Yeah, I don't remember that. Oh my god.
Rich
Of
kids.
course.
I grew up in the projects. What the fuck?
Yeah,
All
then
right,
what are you
so-
talking about 3D Rugrats for in the fucking
Because
90s?
you would get it with your VHS, bro. Like it came like inside the case. It was like taped inside. You got these glasses. You put them on, and it's supposed to be during certain scenes. You would see a 3D effect, but it never fucking worked.
It just made everything look crazy.
Okay, so there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things, but I feel like everything that we're talking about is very materialistic. The reason that we liked it is because they were meant to entertain us.
Well, see, I wanted to bring that up actually, and one of the things I miss about the '90s the most, and I bring up with my mom about my brothers all the time, is they don't play outside. You know how much I miss like going outside into the woods with my friends and just being like gone for hours. Just figuring it out and having a fucking
Dude,
adventure.
That sounds crazy right now. You talking about a kid being gone in the woods for hours today?
No,
You putting out an Amber Alert.
Yeah. Like that. If you let your kid out for even more than that, nowadays you're like a negligent parent and shit. You know what I mean?
I know it's
Like,
crazy. Like
that is nuts to me. That's
just
even
give
more
them a
nuts.
Glock.
Battle Royale this shit out. Load last one standing. No. But so I did the same. I didn't particularly have woods to go out to, but I would always the first thing I do when I got home was lie about not having any homework.
Oh, absolutely. Every single
Every-
day.
Every time. Mom, do you know? My mom would come up to me. Hey, do you have homework? Nah, mom.
What's
No,
homework?
they don't. They said the no homework today.
They did no homework today. Teacher said that it's all good. Everybody gets A's. Fuck it, mom. It's all good. Everybody got A's.
Fuck him, mom. I'm 6 years old.
I know what I'm talking about. But I would immediately go out, like I would go inside, drop all my stuff, and immediately go back outside and play football with my friends for hours.
Finishing chores.
until it was practically like about to turn nighttime.
You played football? Fucking rich kids. God.
Dude, Rich, what do you
So
mean?
spoiled.
All we had was a football in our driveway, so we used to throw it across
played
and pretend like we had
basketball.
He's over
fucking.
here playing
These
stick
black
rock.
kids.
We got Spicy's over here fucking like he's challenging his mom to like that wooden that spoon game where you break the spoon. The
my
plastic.
He had one of the push hoops.
Let me go hit some rocks with this stick.
Let me. He's challenging his friends to that one game where you break pencils with another pencil. He challenges.
I
Like, hey
always
mom, what are you
challenge
doing?
I
Mom,
had
what
a
are you
pen-
doing?
I had a pencil that lasted literally 2 school years.
Man,
He only
Without
played
breaking.
war.
good lord.
But there was a lot more. I'm not gonna say there was a lot more imagination in the '90s because I disagree with that.
What?
I disagree.
Minecraft, hands down.
I
You had to have
Oh,
more
truth.
imagination in the
I
90s.
disagree with that. I disagree with that. I think that there's a lot more imaginative things coming out right now because of technology than there were in the 90s. In the 90s, people say, "Oh yeah, you're in front of a computer, blah blah blah, you're going to lose your imagination." No. You'll find more crazy shit on the internet than you could ever find walking outside.
Well, it's just now that everyone can post it all in one place. It's just more prevalent.
And-
Whereas And there's also a visual aid to go with the imagine. Like, I can't. I guess you can't say that it's more imaginative or less imaginative, considering all the '90s kids that had these thoughts in their heads at the time when they were children are now just adults and they're posting it on the internet. You know,
I
what
would
mean?
say
You're right.
it's easier to access, yes, but at the same time, you have to realize there's so much more to imagine nowadays because we have access to so much more information. So I mean, in the '90s, there would have never been a kid that around the age of 12 trying to make a working cell phone inside of fucking Minecraft. That just wouldn't have been a thing.
Right.
Even with like their Legos, and the most we would come up with is ray guns. You know what I mean? Like
Every time.
Things
In
that-
fact, that's all I would build.
exactly. You know what I mean? Like, but the imagination is expanding because our base knowledge, just from an early age, is getting bigger. To have access to the entire world at your fingers from when you can start typing on a phone to, when you're like 12,
Yeah.
you're going to be so significantly smarter than when we were at 12.
What I would give to, like, I love my childhood, don't get me wrong, but what I would give to be one of these little kids right now with a cell phone that is basically just a computer. The cell phones that we have now are stronger than the first computer I had. And and just so you understand how much computers sucked back in the 90s as well. My first computer had a 333 megahertz processor. And
Yeah,
it was big as fuck. It was huge, like heavy as hell.
I think I had like a 30 gig hard drive.
My first hard
30
drive my first hard drive was 1 gig big, and that shit lasted me forever.
Rich kids over here.
Oh, I got my old stepdad's computer, so no, it was my stepdad.
So that being said, I feel like I would give a lot to be any of these kids right now, but what I like about growing up in the 90s is that we got to see the rise of modern not gaming, because it's not what gaming, it's not strictly gaming, but we got to see the rise of like modern computer usage.
We got to see the connected world, and that's something we got to see before. Like, that's the thing is, I say this all the time. We're the one generation. We may be the best generation, and I know that sounds very self-conceited, but think about this. We got to live something before the technology age. We got to do that, and we're in the technology age and are young enough to understand it and still evolve with it and be able to keep up with it. There's not going to be another generation that was able to do that.
We're taking over a whole nother generation with our generation by creating all this nostalgia, all these movies and TV shows that are coming out that are based off of things that came from our time. We're taking over.
Oh,
like,
but we've been took over.
Again.
Yeah, we've been taking
all
over.
These movies that are coming out.
I mean, look, there's a new Blade Runner, and that nostalgia is running today. You know what I mean? Like, hipsters are the new it people.
What's funny is that I think the funniest part is that the people that are making all these remakes and all that stuff are all these all these 90s kids, like late 90s kids that really, like, we loved the 90s so much that we were like, well, it can't go away. We can't just let it disappear.
And now we're fucking ruining it.
No,
we get pissed off when things like don't come back. We're like, can we get a remake, please?
That, and that's crazy to me. But neither here nor there.
I need a remake of Street Sharks.
So
would you say that would be the worst part?
No,
that it's not advancing because we're keeping it right where it is.
No. I don't, because we are advancing. We are advancing. We're. It's not like we're just stunted in the 90s. If that were the case, then we wouldn't have iPhones right now. But I think that the way that the 90s helped us is what Smog was saying. We grew up in an age where we got to be without technology, really, for a long time. Without, not, obviously not in the broader sense, but we got to be without modern technology for a long time, where we had to do things outside, where we had to just kind of make up our own games, where we just kind of had to do
encyclopedias, dictionaries. We had to use those.
We had to use, like, we actually had to use that shit. Now we got Wikipedia for everything. We got
Like, how many kids don't know what freeze tag or Simon Says is?
Tons. My brothers have never played that shit.
What's a
What?
freeze tag or Simon Says?
Oh my gosh.
So with that being said,
Fucking rich kids.
we get to what the fuck?
Shut up, Spicy.
So with that in mind, we get to we are evolving with it. Not only are we evolving with it, I think we're in a place where we understand kind of what's coming. Oh, okay. So we spoke about the good parts about the 90s, and we kind of touch upon the bad parts, but now I'm really gonna hammer it in. The 90s sucked ass. The 90s sucked. Guys, I know that hurts for me, for coming from me, but the 90s sucked, okay?
Rap was terrible.
Rap could have been way better.
Look at the outfits. The fashion back then was fucking terrible.
The music, and although there's great music to come out of the 90s, you know, I feel like music is a harder one, because with music, you know, that's all subjective. But
I don't know. Nickelback's not subjective. That was all fucking bad.
But here's an objective reality, okay? 90s, in the 90s, you mentioned Street Sharks. Almost there were so many shows that suffered from 90s writing.
Well, they were all toys pushers. They weren't
all
even
of them.
shows.
All of them. G.I. Joe even. And I love G.I. Joe.
You remember Dragonflyers?
Yes, and they fucking pushed the shit out of those.
I had one. Like, I didn't even watch the fucking show. Like, I just the blue guy, so I could pull him to the air and he could fly. You know,
I didn't have one, but my cousin had like a fairy princess one, and I was like, yo, that shit is dope. I'm using that shit. Like, I didn't discriminate, but everything was trying to push. I feel like the advertisement was like,
even wrestling
was just that. Like they were just pushing for. But I feel like all of our shows were that. All the shows that we are fond of, were toy pushers, almost.
Pokemon card game, Yu-Gi-Oh card game.
I mean, Digimon card game.
Gargoyles. There was a board game that went with it.
Beyblades was not a toy pusher. Okay.
Beyblades was not 90s.
How dare you? Beyblades is 2003. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You keep that shit out of my 90s. I know I might hate it right now, but Beyblades, you can keep that shit.
If you want to bring up Zoids or Hamtaro, maybe we can talk.
We'll talk then. There was so much of that nonsense, and on top of all that, the inception of the internet was a piece of shit.
Yeah. Think about, like, 4chan used to be a thing. Like, 7chan, 8chan.
I don't want to talk about 4chan, but what I will talk about is how I think this is a good time, you know, since net neutrality got repealed recently. I think this is a good time to touch upon the fact that back then,
going backwards.
Back then, I feel like we're going backwards sometimes, but back then there was a reason why AOL even gave out 100 hours. It's because they could. There's no other reason for that shit. It's because they fucking could.
Yeah, they were making you pay for a commodity that they knew you didn't have to pay for by the fucking hour. Like,
You're standing by a river and it's like, hey, you can buy a cup of water for $1. You know?
But the river's right there. Buy this fucking cup.
Right?
Yeah, the river's there, but you can't get to it without this cup.
So it was, you know, like, and then the internet in general was terrible. You couldn't use the internet without a phone line.
And let's not forget, the access to porn nowadays is just fantastic.
There's always been access to porn. What are you talking about?
All bless the internet gods.
I was looking for VHSs back in the 90s, man.
Dude, I had like Playboy magazines and stuff like that.
I remember searching AOL late at night, like, boobs, please.
He was like, he searched on AOLsex.com.
Nakedladies.com.
Dragon Moon X. Yeah.
Oh man.
But like shit like that, like the internet sucked back then. And there's a lot of people that are like, oh, but the internet was this, that, the flash games, blah blah blah. Like, okay, man, you could fucking your average person could make a flash game right now. That's how old flash games are.
Anybody, you can literally build your own flash game in like seconds.
I'm pretty sure you can. I don't know what the exact specifics are, But Flash games were dope back then because we didn't have anything better. 56K was nobody out here on the internet is gonna convince me that 56K was good.
Yeah, I didn't want to play dating sims on Newgrounds. There just wasn't anything else to do.
Fuck I did.
You know what? The fact that my mom, a random phone call could disconnect me from the internet. Like for whatever reason. If my mom was feeling like, and my mom is not a spiteful person, but if my mom decided to be spiteful, like maybe she got mad, maybe I got a C one day, like on something, and she was just mad at me. The moment that I connected to the internet, she could just pick up the phone. Oops.
Well, and like, you know how much cooler it is nowadays to be like me and you, we don't live close to each other anymore. We used to live down the street from each other.
Yeah.
But now if I want to play a game with you, I don't have to like worry about the distance. I can hit you up on Steam and we play. Like
Exactly. There was a point I remember it so clearly. The day that I really started getting really into the internet. I remember it so clearly because I was like 12, 13 years old. And I had one of my first computers. And one of my friends came into school like a couple days after I got my first computer, and he was talking about how he could play Super Nintendo on his computer. And that shit blew my mind because I didn't have a Super Nintendo. I had a PlayStation 1 and I had a Sega Genesis. And I was so excited about those two things. By the way, I was a big console player back then, but neither here nor there. So he told me that you could play Super Nintendo on your computer. I was like, I'm sorry, you can do what now?
Go ahead.
Dragon Ball Z Hyper Dimension was the game that he wanted me to play. We were all hyper obsessed with Dragon Ball Z. All my friends. That's another good part of the 90s is that Dragon Ball Z was so fucking amazing. But anyway, he told me that there was a game, a Super Nintendo game for Dragon Ball Z, and I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And he told me how to do it. He gave me like a tutorial. He wrote that shit down on a piece of paper because you can't waste that printer paper, guys. Can't waste that ink.
Gotta get WinRAR.
No, you gotta get your trial version of WinRAR, okay?
Yeah.
Of WinRAR and WinZip. You get your trial version, and you fucking ignore them asking you for a license for the rest of your days.
You don't have a licensed version of our product. Yeah, well, I don't give a fuck.
Well,
I'm 6 years old.
I'm 6, bitch.
You can't sue.
So I went on my computer and I researched how to do that. The moment that I found out that computers could do the same things that some consoles could do, I was hooked. I knew I was hooked then. That was the time.
Well, that's a question I actually have for everyone. We're all PC gamers here. I mean, that's clear. But were you guys PC gamers in the 90s? And if so, what was the game that got you into it? Because I have one.
I have one, but I'll let someone else answer. The question is were you a PC gamer in the 90s? And what game got you into PC gaming?
Not in the 90s.
You guys are rich as fuck.
Right? I had a Nintendo 64 and a PlayStation.
Right?
Well, for the longest time, that's all I would use was my PlayStation. I didn't have an N64. My stepbrother had it. We got to play a lot of GoldenEye, a lot of rage moments there, but that's neither here nor there. I got into PC gaming through Super Nintendo, believe it or not. Between Super Nintendo, between the emulators of Super Nintendo, which were, by the way, the only other good thing about the 90s were the customization of websites. Websites were fucking wild in the 90s. Like
wild.
They were wild. Like they had nothing was cohesive. Nothing made sense on the website. The links, they
go anywhere.
People had sparkly animated GIFs everywhere because, whatever, the shinier the better their website is.
Well,
I got into an MUD called The Forthcoming because it came with I think it came on a hard drive. My computer was real bootleg, and I think it came on the hard drive, and I didn't know that you could play with other people on the internet on PC. I didn't know that that was a thing. I thought the only way that you could play with anyone was strictly through, console local
Couch
multiplayer.
co-op.
Yeah, like couch co-op. And that was my first actual introduction into MMORPGs. But I remember getting my first computer, getting internet, and the first thing I asked was, "Will I be able to play Pokemon online?" Will I be? That's all I wanted to do. And the guy didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. He was like, "Go to Pokemon.com, dude." I was like, "What?"
Damn.
Yeah, sure, kid. Bye.
Yeah, pretty much. He was just basically like, "Yeah, whatever, kid. Just Pokemon.com," and then he just let me go on my way. But what were you saying?
Well, I guess since I was the only real PC gamer here, I actually got a PC before I got a console, so I wasn't rich. We just focused on different things.
Okay.
My first console was given to my family, and that was my Sega. And I don't really remember playing that. I was so young at that point. But my first PC game was Mech War 3, and playing that online was what got me like into PC gaming because I was just like, holy, I can blow people up. Like
Did your family only have one PC though?
they did, and then I got the old one when my stepdad got his new one. So
And when was that?
like 97 when I got
Get
my
your fucking rich ass out of here. You
I listen to me. So while emulation got me into sort of PC gaming, the game that really pushed me over into PC gaming and just like almost being strictly a PC gamer was Warcraft 3.
No, same fucking here. I was about to say
Warcraft 3. Warcraft 3. I found out that there was something called real-time strategy games, and I went from Warcraft 3 to StarCraft, and then for some reason I jumped onto fucking Counter-Strike. Don't ask questions.
Why? Why?
I don't know how I made the transition, but
You just said don't ask questions.
I went to I knew PC gaming was going to be a big thing once, because I also had only one computer in the house, and I had one computer in the house for pretty much the rest, for as long as I lived in my parents' house. I had one computer in the house. But one of the things that was crazy is that once I started PC gaming, and my friend who was really like more of a jock saw me PC gaming, he got hooked to PC gaming. And he wanted to play StarCraft, and we all were competing. We were all playing on one computer. Another reason why the 90s suck.
Well, I mean, also think about what we had those fucking apples that looked like an apple in schools. Like,
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
You're
Those
talking
things-
about you're talking about the Mac when it was still just Mac.
Yeah.
was it still just Mac? It wasn't Apple yet?
Yeah, it wasn't Mac. It wasn't quite Apple yet.
No, they were Macintosh.
They were
Mac-
They were
Macintosh.
still Macintosh. Holy shit, that's still long ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. I remember
I
that
still
that's where all the learning games were. Number
Blank
Muncher.
Check. Remember Blank Check, the whole movie about Mr. Macintosh?
Yes,
I'm talking
I do
about
remember.
computers when I was over here playing with a light bright.
He was like,
dude,
Light
Light Bright.
Bright, yo, Light Bright was the shit, dude.
I had an easy bake oven.
Hey,
For-
hey. Do you remember Mousetrap?
Fucking the worst game in history, bro. Nobody ever
Oh,
played that
The
thing.
best game.
Dude,
No.
and you had the clay mice. That was so fucking good, dude.
Nobody
They were
ever set
delicious.
it up. Nobody. Oh, what? You ate them?
What? Huh?
He's like eating clay in the corner over here.
Now we know why you didn't like the 90s. This
Yeah.
is why your parents didn't buy you shit. You ate it.
Your
I had
mom
a
came.
Game Gear and
Your
a
mom
Furby.
comes. Picture this: Spicy's mom comes into his room where she just got him Mousetrap, and he's turned around in a corner, and he's like, "Spicy, what are you doing?" He turns around with fucking purple clay in his mouth, like, "Mom, it tastes like grapes."
Oh my lord.
And that's the day all the Play-Doh in the house was
Yo,
removed.
I remember having tons of Hot Wheels, dude. I was the Hot
Oh
Wheels.
yeah, I loved Hot Wheels.
I
Go
ahead.
My mom had gotten me like a Hot Wheels Mountain, and it was just like it was about I want to say it was at least 3 feet tall.
Rich kid.
But when I was a kid, like it felt like huge.
Yeah.
But you could take off the top and put all of your Hot Wheels in the little thing, and it had 3 ramps that came off of it. It couldn't connect to any of the tracks, by the way. It was literally just ramps that you could ramp them off of. But
Yo,
I remember I had to go to the bathroom, and my sister had just been born. I had to go to the bathroom so bad, and I went inside the mountain.
Jesus Christ.
Damn.
I took out all my Hot Wheels.
Wait,
and
you
inside the
peed?
little-
You
Yeah.
peed inside your mountain?
inside where you'd hold all the Hot Wheels cars. I took them all out and peed inside of that.
Why, dude?
Because I told you, because my mom and my sister were in the bathroom. Like she was getting a shower or like she was cleaning her, and I had to use the bathroom.
Another reason the 90s sucked.
I mean, at least it was better than peeing on
Spicy.
the carpet. I could have peed on my carpet.
So I was really into Hot Wheels too. I had a bunch of nice looking Hot Wheels too, man, but I fucked all of them up, dude.
Oh yeah,
I
eventually
fucked
all the
up
wheels
my
were
Hot
bent.
Wheels. But so okay, so so looking back at it, I think there's definitely a lot of things that I think just growing up in the 90s we can really apply to living to our lives right now. I feel like there's very little that someone that was born in, let's say, 2005 really has to change, especially in the way that we had to change, because we had to adapt to the technology as it came out. We had to. If you don't adapt to the technology coming from the 90s, if we don't adapt to the technology as it came out, you immediately get left behind, because things have been changing. I feel like since then, at the turn of the century, technology has changed so quickly that if you were not really in the know, you get left behind really quick. You get left behind extra quick. Like now, I feel like I keep up with it better. But in the 90s, when in the 90s and in the early 2000s, as things were coming out, I felt like I was struggling to really to keep up, to really understand what's going on. People in my kids in my class in my middle school year, fucking getting two-way pagers like they're fucking drug dealers and shit. Like they don't understand, they don't understand why they need these two-way pagers, but they gotta message each other from across the whole, from across the room. They got a text. It was crazy. Does anyone remember those two ways?
Oh yeah, I do.
I
also-
never got one, but
2 ways, fucking rich kids. I had a cup and a string.
that company, he fucking threw it at his classes, like at his friends in his classes. He's like, dude, we gotta talk.
The only way you could get messages was shooting wasps across the classroom, folded up notes.
Fuck
But-
that. I use that to hit people with.
So I think we can safely say that I like living right now. I like my current
I like my porn digital. That's what he's trying to say.
not only that, I think that adds to it. But I think I like where we're at as far as we've come right now. I like that better than living in the 90s.
I miss, and I think this is again something I was going to bring up earlier, but there wasn't an appropriate time. I feel like the reason the nostalgia for the 90s is so strong is it's so unsafe nowadays. And back then, like, we didn't lock our door like all the time in my apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the 90s, we didn't like, nobody was gonna fucking break in. It just wasn't a thing. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's what people really, they're looking back towards. It's because today feels so unsafe that they look back towards as the comfort blanket. There wasn't a housing crisis back in the 90s. There was jobs for everybody back in the 90s. Or at least, that's how people remember it.
Yeah, that's how people remember it. That's how people
Like,
I won't say that's true for sure, but that's definitely how people remember it. 100%, I believe that.
It was a cornucopia, and that's what people remember the 90s as. And Was it? Yes. I mean, it was a cornucopia of culture, and without the 90s, we wouldn't be where we are today. The 90s is what pushed us where we are.
Yeah, but I mean, you could say that about any decade
Well,
because you wouldn't have
exactly.
the '90s without the '80s. You wouldn't have the '80s without the '70s.
But
Yeah,
then that's
but-
it.
but
It
wait,
happens every decade. But the change from having technology that could connect, and I know it's horrible, but somebody potentially that wants to be a predator from a different state, to your state, they could just find you.
That's
That-
dumb. That's just dumb.
I mean,
That-
but that
that doesn't
wasn't a thing. It does happen though.
It does. Yeah, I was about to say that does happen. That
How
absolutely does
How
happen.
often
time.
do you hear about that?
All the time, dude.
What do
Especially
you mean all the time? I'm
Uh,
about to Google it right now.
You could Google it all you want. The fact of the matter is that connectivity, and I feel like I pronounced that really weirdly, but connectivity right now is something that is so heavily ingrained in our society right now. Like, we are connected no matter what we do.
24/7.
We're connected 24/7. Even when you're not on your computer, even when you're not really on your phone, you are connected. Because if you get a notification on your phone, you're going to go check that. Whatever your social media is, you're going to check that. You're going to check that throughout your day at some point or another.
not only that, your phone listens to you.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's what I'm saying. People miss the close knit community feeling, and that just doesn't exist anymore.
I think
No.
that being said, that's why Twitch thrives the way that it does. That's why things like YouTube and Twitch thrive the way they do.
Well, the thing is that for close knit communities, I think it brings them closer because now they have something more in common to share between each other. Like I've lived in Greenville for a little over a decade, and every single person knows every single person. It's not like it. Like, even back in the day, like if you had someone new move in, you probably wouldn't get to know them for little while. But now it's like they usually already know who they are.
Yeah, but time out. How small is Greenville?
Greenville's not that small. It's pretty large, but
Compared
like I said,
compared to a larger city, how small is that?
it's a college town. It's like they only
okay,
have
so that's
East
small
Carolina
as fuck.
University.
That's small as fuck. I don't. You're talking about it's
I mean,
it's
I
fairly
grew up in
large.
Roswell.
Yeah, like you're talking about it's a college town. The moment you mention college town, that means everything is within walking distance.
Well, that's the thing, is that it's not. It's still like, Google it. Just Google Greenville, North Carolina. Like, it's not a huge town, but it's not a small town either. Like, it's all backcountry. It's all spread out.
What are the chances that you meet someone you know when heading to your local Walmart?
Very high because
Very high because
that's
it's small.
It's obviously because it's also the only Walmart that we have.
Oh,
only
it's
recently
small.
built two other
That's what
Walmarts.
I'm saying. Like, you're saying that it's big compared
But
to whatever, but if I can walk into the Walmart
But that's
and
what I'm
meet my
saying,
fucking
is that that's what I'm saying, is that you can't say that communities are not close knit.
well,
No, I'm saying the general feel of society today is
Yeah,
not the
'cause
same as 90s.
the community. I feel like the community being close knit. Of course, that's going to happen in a college town. It happened in the
but-
last college town that I lived in. But
Any town should be growing closer because of the internet. It's not further apart.
I don't think so. I think I think when people
People
people have access to the internet, they feel like they don't have to connect
People-
with people in real life.
Well, they don't have to go face to face with people, but they know what other people are doing.
Anonymity on the internet is one of the biggest reasons of disconnect, bro. I mean, people think they can get away with saying things, but people, like, if you're in a small town like that, people are going to figure out who it is. Like, the internet also lets you go so far back into people's past that you can see things they may have said when they are more ignorant and less cultured.
it happens on Twitter all the time.
Exactly. I mean, like, the internet can, just as much as it brings people together, it pushes people just as much apart, and that could happen even worse in a small town.
And when you're talking, and especially when you're talking about when you're talking about college towns, I think it's also different because people unify around, and, like, especially if it's a college town, people unify around the college because the college is providing funding for literally like half the shit in the town. At least
Also,
that's
the caveat off the whole safety thing, I think that we're just more aware of what's going on. Like,
Exactly.
I talk to my mom all the time, and she says that the level of crime hasn't actually gone up or down. Yes, it has changed a little bit, but it's still the same as it was. But the ease of access makes people feel more fearful than when they were in the 90s.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, it's
100%.
constantly in front of your face now. And that's
Yeah.
what I mean. That small town feeling of, oh, that shit happens in Chicago, not here. That shit isn't real anymore. It
Yeah.
does not exist. You know that, like, it doesn't matter whether or not you want to know, but, like, just in Roswell, not too long ago, there was somebody that was raped behind a car wash that I used to walk past all the time. And I would have never known that if there wasn't the internet and it wasn't put on Facebook.
You used to walk past? Are you trying to
No.
admit something?
No, I mean I moved out of the state, but but what I'm saying,
I'm gonna push that. I'm gonna push that a little bit further as well. Smog. So basically, one of the things with everyone being connected so well as the way they are right now is that I'm also more prone to not trust people that I see walking around. I feel that way. I feel that way. I feel like even the people that live around my neighborhood, like I've seen them move around, but I don't really want to get to know them because I don't want to find out later that they're doing some crazy illegal shit.
True.
You know what I mean? Like I don't want to hang around them, and then they're being all nice, and then suddenly, you know what? I'll say it like this on the record. I feel like I trust people on the internet more than I trust people in real life.
because you can
I
dive.
don't trust anybody, but that's just I just never have.
He's fucking a lone wolf.
Every single time someone
Yeah.
says something or anytime, I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Is that real?
I mean,
give me the pictures. What the fuck are you talking about? Give me dates. I need names, numbers. Give me the Carfax.
who, what, when, where?
Man.
I will
Well,
question it till they give up and admit that they were lying about it.
I think the reason, Aqua, that you feel that way is one, because you live a digital life, and two, is because living a digital life, when you meet somebody online, there's so much. It's so easy to check their background. Like there's no
You would
real
think.
hiding. Well, I mean, of course you can change screen names, but it comes out. You know what I mean? It all eventually comes out. I mean, everybody gets caught eventually.
Yeah.
It happens.
I mean, if you're savvy enough in being able to search someone,
So-
you had the access to the right stuff. Yeah, you could, but at the same time, whenever someone has a different screen name and is living under a completely different identity than who they are, it makes them extremely difficult to figure out. Who they really
one
are.
of the things that also makes it easier for me to connect with people on the internet, I think, is my general, and this is gonna sound really weird, but it's my general distrust of people on the internet.
You're weird, Aqua.
My general distrust of people on the internet, because I am on the internet all the time. You're right, and I've been living on the internet for a long, long time now. So I know that when I was younger, I was a dick on the internet. I was an asshole.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was an asshole. So wait a minute before what I mean to say by that is that so when someone comes by or when someone interacts with me, it's really easy for me to be dismissive until they prove to me that I shouldn't be dismissive about what they're saying to me. Whereas in person, like let's say my neighbor and I get into an argument. Oh, well then I gotta see that motherfucker tomorrow. Like I gotta see him when I walk outside tomorrow.
Yeah,
Or
I mean,
when I but on the internet I'll be like, why don't you just show me? Like if you're gonna tell me something, tell me the truth. Tell me whatever. I can look it up, so you don't have to. Even if you lie to me, you're just digging yourself a hole.
Mhm.
Like there's the general distrust. I feel like especially the people from the 90s generally distrust people on the internet anyway. They're less trusting. They're less trusting because we come from a time where people were just generally dicks on the internet.
well, we also come from the time of ASL. Like that's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah,
we grew up in a time internet was dangerous, actually dangerous.
It's still dangerous, but
But now we're aware.
but now we're
that's-
more aware. What were you saying, Disciple?
Oh, none. I'm listening. It is dangerous out there, and dang, you just a lot of things as far as you almost can't trust even people on the internet. Like, I don't know, I might download or get a file from somebody and you can't trust that I know that it's a file that doesn't have some malicious content on it that might steal your passwords and get into your bank account or something, you know?
I've
You can't
actually
trust
I've actually had that happen to me before.
Yeah,
I've had a keylogger on my computer that Windows Defender didn't protect, and that's one of the main reasons why you know, shameless plug, Bitdefender is actually really good.
There you go.
Because it
Everybody,
was like you got a
everybody got
keylog on your
download.
computer, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, Bitdefender?
Everybody,
like,
everybody get Bitdefender. So well, that's another thing.
Malware bites.
I didn't know shit about malware back then, and I remember getting a virus back in the 90s that bricked my computer. There
Well,
was there was nothing I could do about it because computers act stupid now. You can barely trust technology now. You couldn't trust it back then in the least.
we used to kick VCRs to fucking fix them.
Right. Bang on the TV.
The files are in the computer.
Like,
Zoolander. But I mean, that's actually how I got my first computer. Is my stepdad broke it and I fixed it. Like, I mean, so I guess I'm coming from a different place where I went the opposite way of most people. I learned about computers
Fucking
before.
rich kid.
Mm.
What?
I learned about computers before a lot of people were even into them. Like, so I took apart the computer. My mom came into the room and was like, "What the hell did you do?" And I was like, "I don't know, but I'm gonna put it back together."
So let's recap really quick because I think that we've made it pretty clear. I think we've made it pretty clear. I'm not sure. When I go back through the podcast and listen to all the dumb shit that we say.
I'm gonna make it very clear right now. The '90s sucked.
The 90s had its moments. It had its moments, but I feel like all of its moments have been surpassed by 2000
Exponentially.
Yeah, by the late it's not the late 2000s, but I will say this, from 2012 to 2017, I've had more fun on the internet than I ever did in the 90s.
Next 7, 8. What are we? 8, 9. In the next 3 years, we're gonna start hearing about the 2010s was great. Start seeing that pop up.
We're gonna get all the kids that were born in like 2006.
Because-
like, you remember 2010, man? That was the shit. Like,
No, because that's what 2010, like 2008 to 2010 is where all those really shitty pop songs with the dance moves came out.
What are you talking about? You
Do
mean
not
amazing.
want this. I do not want to relearn how to Dougie.
no.
Yo, dude.
I do not want to see the
Soldier Boy.
stanky leg, a resurgence of the stanky leg. Okay,
I do not need
I
that.
don't need that shit.
Just like we don't need the Macarena.
Soldier Boy up
Whoa.
in it. Oh, what you
Whoa.
got? What you do?
Whoa, did you just diss the Macarena, bro?
We don't need that back. We don't need it back.
We don't
It-
need that. I agree. We don't need that shit back.
We never.
Every
we
single
can't,
white
we can't
wedding
get
for the
back things
past
that have never
35
left.
years disagrees with you.
And the Superman and Soldier Boy could
Oh.
stay. Soldier Boy could stay where he's at. I don't
Soulja
even know
Boy,
why we even
period.
mentioned him. He could stay. He could stay.
You.
Yeah, wherever he could stay, wherever he's probably doing that shit in his room right now. You.
If it was in Tyler Perry movie, it needs to stay where Tyler Perry is.
anyway, I think it's pretty obvious. I think the 90s had its moments, and most of their moments were in media, in my opinion.
Right.
Entertainment. In entertainment. They're the highlights of the 90s. It's stupid that, maybe not stupid, maybe stupid is the wrong word, but I think it says a lot whenever we recall the 90s, we talk about TV as opposed to like the things that went on then.
Well, yeah, I mean, something we didn't even bring up was the dawn of reality shows. Big Brother, God, what was that? Fear Factor.
Yeah. I mean that, and that's what I'm saying. I feel like I think it says a lot that we define our 90s experience by TV shows as opposed to things that we actually liked, like doing. You know what I mean? Like,
Skating
even
rinks.
yeah, like even in 2000, like let's even if we brought it all the way, even if we extended that all the way out to 2005, by the time 2005 came out, I was so entrenched in not paying attention to the things that were going around me, where I'd rather just play MMORPGs on the internet all day after coming back home from school, that I don't really I don't really connect with like events that happened back then. And the largest event that happened between then and now for me was 9/11.
Do you remember 9/11?
I remember where I was 9/11. I remember
I do, too.
9/11. And but that's one of the things, that's another moment that I remember. Like those are the things that defined.
Well, everything stopped, so
Yeah.
it wasn't hard to remember that one.
Yeah, everything stopped all at once. We were all, I was in my English classroom, and we were all looking at the TV. Like, but I just say that to hammer the point home. We define the 90s by the media that we watched. And if we objectively look at the media, in my opinion, obviously, I say objectively, but it's really subjectively. But I think even if I wanted to take an objective stance on this, Street Sharks sucked. Okay.
Fuck you, Street Sharks was amazing.
Damn.
Street Sharks sucked, okay? Like the 90s writing style is like, yo, they're gonna fight some shit. Cool.
No, Beetleborgs sucked.
Oh, don't even talk about Beetleborgs. We don't remember Beetleborgs, okay? Not here. We don't remember Beetleborgs.
VR Troopers.
But that was the writing style. Yo, they got a bad guy to fight right now. Okay, ship it. Go. The kids need to see it.
No, it's a toy.
It's a toy. Yeah, basically. So, anyway, the 90s sucks. Live in the now. All these 90s kids that are obsessed with like living in the 90s. Get over it. Get over it, man. We got better shit. You want a Gigapet? You could download a Gigapet on your phone right now, on your iPhone, on your Android, whatever the fuck you want. You could download that shit. You don't need a Gigapet. You want to fucking watch Pokemon the first season for the 100th time? You can find that shit. You can fucking watch that on the internet. You know what I mean? Like if because I feel like they're so upset. I feel like a lot of my generation is so obsessed with that shit. Like I love Pokemon. I was part of it. I was part of that phase. Like I got my fucking Pokemon Blue stolen. I went to go fight a kid for my Pokemon Blue shit. You know, like like leave. I feel like the 90s. I feel like the 90s are dead. Leave them alone. Okay. The shit that was cool then is definitely not cool now. All right.
I think to sum it all up, toy companies were just trying to push you toys so they could buy more cocaine.
And they succeeded.
Yep.
And they succeeded. But yo, thank you for joining us today for this episode of The Ripple Effect. Again, my name is Aquafina. I'm your host. We have Spicy Fireball, we got Smug the Wise, and we got That Disciple. You should follow us on Twitch. I don't think Smug has a channel yet, but you should follow us on Twitch. Twitch.tv/Aquafina, Twitch.tv/That Disciple, Twitch.tv/Spicy Fireball.